Because, unfortunately, the notification center keeps a pointer to you that is called unsafe retained. So it's not strong or weak, it's unsafe retained. And what unsafe retained means is that if you go out of the heap without calling this first, the notification center might try and send you a notification and crash your app. That's why it's unsafe. Now, why are they using unsafe retained here? Clearly, for backwards compatibility, this really should be weak. Okay? It would be awesome for this to be a weak pointer to you, because then if you went out of the heap, it would be set to nil inside the notification center. It would never try and send you any messages. But you know, the whole weak mechanism of setting things to nil automatically, that's an iOS 6, iOS 7 only thing. So if you had an app that was running on iOS 5, that wouldn't work. And if this depended on that, it would be bad. I'm sure eventually they would probably move these things to weak and just say, if you use this API, it's deprecated, you can't run on iOS 5. I don't know, maybe they'll do that in iOS 8 or 9, I don't know. But be careful there, it's unsafe retained. It's the only unsafe retained really you're probably going to have to worry about in this course. But the bottom line is, remove yourself when you're done listening. Now, normally you're going to remove yourself when your MVC goes off screen, okay? Because you're usually only interested in radio station happenings when your MVC is active and on screen. But if for some reason that doesn't make sense, there is a method called DAlec. Every object has this. It gets called just before your object leaves the heap. Okay? All your properties are nil. You're barely existing as an object, and this gets called. Okay? It's that last hook. And so you can fix unsafe retained pointers to you there. Okay? I don't recommend using DAlec. Don't use it for anything else, that's for sure, in this class. I suggest removing it when it makes sense. Your question?
You're trying to remove yourself as an observer and you're not an observer on anything? Is that kind of...
Great question. So the question is, what if I call remove observer and I'm not observing anything? No problem. Nothing bad will happen.
So you could just throw that in DAlec.
You could. It wouldn't be very nice programming because it's kind of not very pretty, but you could just throw that in your DAlec and to be safe. But better to, you know. Okay, so here's an example. This is the example I'm going to demo real quick here, which is text size. So in iOS 7, not in any iOS before that, but in iOS 7, if you use preferred fonts, then the user can actually go into settings and change the size of their font. So if they're like me, and the phone has to be held farther and farther away as the years go by, you can set the text size up and move that phone back in a little bit. So that's what this text size thing allows you to do. Well, if that text size font change happens, you have to get notified so that you can change the fonts. Use the new preferred font that the user set, okay? So you get that notification by signing up in the default center for the radio station called UI content size category did change notification. Okay, could argue it could be called something like preferred fonts change, but it's not. UI content size category did change notification, okay? You sign up for that, and whenever those fonts change size, your method, preferred font size change is what I called mine, will get called, okay? So let's take a look at how we would add that to Attributor, because Attributor uses preferred fonts, and if we change the font size, we want the body and the headline both to change to the bigger or smaller font. So let's do that. I'm going to go back here to Xcode. So here we are. The other thing we're going to need to make this work is the view controller lifecycle. Okay? Because we're only interested in those font changes if we're the MVC that's on screen, which we always are, of course, because we only have this one MVC. But soon we will have other MVCs, and we won't always be on screen. So let's use the view controller lifecycle method. View will appear. Okay. So when a view will appear, notice I'm always going to do super will view super there. You can call super before or after you do your work. It kind of depends on what you want. Do you want your superclass to get a chance after you've done what you want to do, or before? Usually it doesn't matter too much. I don't know that UI View Controller actually does things in these supers, but you always want to give them the opportunity. Okay, it's just part of the View Controller lifecycle. So when the view appears, I just want to sign up with the notification center so that I can receive these messages. So all I'm going to say is NS notification center, default center, add observer, self. Okay, I'm going to want these messages sent to myself. The selector, remember we have to say @selector when we want to specify thing. I'm going to call it preferred fonts changed. Okay, name is UI content, size, category. Ooh, luckily I get to tab through that one. Okay, and the object is nil. In other words, if anybody sends that, I'm going to change my preferred fonts. Okay, notice there's a warning here. That's because I don't implement this. I believe that's new in iOS 7. I don't remember seeing that before. Okay, thank you. Too many R's. Preferred. Okay, view, okay, void here, preferred. Whoops, 2 F's now. Okay, preferred fonts changed. Takes an NS notification star. Okay, notification. I'm not going to use that because it's just basically Boolean. And I'm actually going to call another method. I'm going to call use preferred fonts, and you're going to see why here in a second. Okay, so that set it up so that anytime my view appears, I'm going to get this use preferred fonts sent to me. Preferred fonts sent. And in here, I have to make my text view and my headline use the new preferred fonts. And that's really, really easy to do. Self.body.font equals UI font preferred for text style, UI font text style. This is the body, so I'm going to do body. So this has allowed me an excuse to show you how to set these preferred fonts in code instead of setting them in Xcode. This is how easy it is. Okay. Now I'm setting the font of the UI text view, so if I had any bolds or italics, unfortunately this would blast them. So obviously I would need to iterate through all the attributes and look at the font, get the symbolic traits, apply them like I talked about earlier. And then let's do the same thing for the headline. But its font wants to be the preferred font for headline, which is this one. Okay? So that's that. One last thing to consider here is I need to stop listening. We'll do it in will. Disappear, could do it in either, but. Okay? When I'm going to disappear. I want to stop listening. And so, again, NS notification center, default center, remove observer. Now, some would argue just putting self here, but I actually think that's bad coding because, you know, what happens if you add a new feature down the road where you're listening on a different radio station that you don't want to stop listening to when your view disappears, which is rare, but it's possible. So I actually think it's better here to use the version of this, which remove observer that takes the name. So I'm going to say remove observer self, name is UI content, blah, blah, blah. And the object is still nil. So I'm only going to remove myself as a listener from that one radio station. And there's one last thing to do here, which is what happens if my view appears, I start listening, it disappears, and then they go change the text style. And then I reappear. Okay? I will not be notified at that point because the change, the text style change happened while I wasn't listening. So turning your listening back on you don't get all the messages that happened while you weren't listening. You only get new messages. So that's why we probably want to say self use preferred fonts in view will appear. This is what I'm talking about where view will appear wants to sync up with the world when it starts. That's what view will appear is for. So view will appear is going to use preferred fonts, whatever are currently out there. Okay? That makes sense why I'm doing that? So let's run this and see if it works. Now I'm running this on your device, but on your simulator you can also go to the settings. So here's my text, right? So let's even go ahead and put some orange text in there. Okay, now I'm going to hit the home button, and I'm going to go to settings, which is right here. I'm going to go down to general, I believe it is. Yeah, is that it? Yeah, text size. You see text size right there? You can see there's a slider. So let's make our text really big. Okay, go back. I can just go back to here. It's still running in the simulator. Okay, so if I had to break points and stuff, that would all still work. And now you can see my font is big. I kept my orange right there. I could do this. I could put an outline on there. Green maybe. Okay, you can see the outline a little better with green. And now if I go back again to settings, and let's set this all the way to small, and go back, back to our thing, you can see it updates it. Okay? So, make sense? Everyone understand what's going on there? Okay, so there you can see in that part we used, we showed you how to do the preferred fonts in code, and we also used Notification Center to do the radio station, and we also used some more of the view controller lifecycle. So that was multi-hit there. And so next time, what's coming up, on Wednesday, we're going to take this app and we're going to add some more view controllers to it. It's multiple view controllers. Now, it's very important to pay attention for that for your assignment, because that's the fundamental thing we're asking you to do in the assignment that's going to go out on Wednesday, is make multiple MVCs. Not just your machismo, it's still going to be machismo, but you're going to have to do another game, have both games on screen, have yet another thing appearing on screen. So you're going to have at least 3, and if you do extra credit, 4 or 5 different MVCs. So we're going to rapidly start going up to multiple MVCs. We're going to talk about how to add MVCs with the tab bar and also navigation controller. That's the first 2 ways we're going to learn how to do that. Really important to understand for Wednesday is we're going to use inheritance, because the two of your MVCs are going to be very similar. They're both going to be card games, but they're going to be a little different. You're going to want to use inheritance to share code between them, so I'm going to kind of get you started on that on Wednesday. And so I'll be sending out assignment 3 on Wednesday. Friday, we were going to be doing getting your device working with the free University Developer Program. However, that's not working technically right now, so we're going to put that off till next week. So next Friday, not this week's Friday, but next Friday, we will be having a section where you can come to the section and we'll help you get it so it's working on your device.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.